Hello, and thank you for joining the One Ohio Recovery Foundation Board of Directors April virtual meeting. It's good to see everybody. I'm going to ask Lori to do our roll call.
Director Bruce. Director Amen.
Here.
Director Whiston. Director Handrew. Director Ayers.
She's here.
He's getting off mute.
Sorry.
Director Mason.
Here.
Oh.
Director Mason.
She's here.
Director Powell. Director St. John.
Here.
Director Worsbicky.
Here.
Director Dodge.
Here.
Director Driehaus. Director Hojado.
Here.
I'm here.
Director Tyler Lee.
I don't think she's going to be.
Director Mattia. Director Piccirilli.
Here.
Director Greta Johnson.
Here.
Director Silac. Director Gregoire.
Here.
Director Kidd. Director Lee.
Here.
Director White.
Here.
Director Radcliffe. Director Roizen. Director Baker. Director Claymeyer.
Here.
Director Terry Johnson. Director Rob Blaisdell.
Here.
I show 17. How many do you show? Do we need 18? Do we have a do we need 18?
I didn't say here. I missed my name being called. Mayor. Sorry about that if you didn't get
I
me.
did see you, so I made my
Thank
little
you.
notch.
We have 16, but we need 15, so we're good.
Okay, we'll continue to run the meeting. We don't technically have a quorum right now, but we'll go through the agenda and hopefully by the time we have to vote on anything, we'll have a quorum. But anyway, I want to thank our guest who might be joining us also today. And again, we can't hear your comments, but if you would email us at info@oneohiofoundation.com. Again, that's info@oneohiofoundation.com. We'll try to incorporate any remarks or questions you might have. Now, before we jump to the formal agenda, I'd like to let everybody know that Representative Plummer has stepped down from the foundation board. I'd like to really thank him for all of his advice and help over the past months and year. But we'd also like to take this moment to welcome our newest foundation board member, Representative Monica Robb Blaisdell, isn't it? From a speaker's appointee. I know you're from the Columbia County area. Am I correct on that?
Yes,
Would you like
that's
to say
correct.
a few words, please?
Yes, thank you. My name is Representative Monica Blaisdell. I know several of you. I see several familiar faces. So it's an honor to join this board. It was an honor for the Speaker of the House to appoint me to this board and do this very important work throughout our state. I was born and raised in Columbiana County, and my House district includes most of Columbiana County and all of Carroll County. So thank you again. I thank you to the staff who is working with me to onboard and hopefully provide productive input to this committee. So thank you, and I look forward to serving.
Well, thank you so much. And I know your area well. I used to be over all state parks back in the 90s, and your area is well represented in that area. So thank you very much. Now, our first order of business is to approve today's agenda, and I don't have any edits unless somebody else does. So is there a motion? By the way, I can note we have 19 board members, so we do have a quorum. I need a motion and a second to accept the agenda as written and proposed.
So moved, Amen.
Julie
Second,
Amen makes the
Worsbicky.
motion. And Jeanette Wisbicki seconds the motion. Any discussion on accepting the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion carries. The next item in your packet, you have the draft board minutes from the March board meeting. And on that item also, we would need a motion and accept a second to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Was
Second.
that David or?
Jim
who was
White.
it? Okay, Jim White, thank you, Jim. And second,
Matthias second.
Judge Matthias seconds the motion. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none then. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? And the motion carries. So now we want to discuss the One Ohio Priorities virtual exercise. Want to walk you through the process to get consensus on a few critical topics to chart the future of our foundation. You know, each of us have been committed to this work, and we know how important these funds will be to our community and to those who are impacted. As the board of directors of the foundation, it's our duty to set the course for the foundation so that the mission and the vision can be realized. And we have the slides up. Over the last few weeks, each committee of this board has met and had robust discussions. And we'll talk more about themes in a moment. So today we continue these discussions and set our priorities for the meeting in May. Okay, there we go. And we've moved the slide forward. We partnered with Phil Cass, who will facilitate our meeting in May based on the feedback today. Phil has a long history of leadership and facilitation and includes his time as CEO of the Columbus Medical Association and affiliates and former executive director of the Adam H. Board of Franklin County. He now consults and provides strategic process design and facilitation services to leaders and organizations across our country. Phil has let us know, particularly those who cannot make it on May 14th, that he has cleared his schedule and is making time slots available for each of the members of the board prior to the May 14th meeting. His goal is to make our session what we want it to be, and in order to do so, he would love to hear from us. So please watch out from his email, from the staff team with his office hours availability. By the way, I really want to thank board member Tom Gregoire for suggesting him as our facilitator, and we are looking forward to the conversation. Now, this time, I'd like to turn it over to Alicia for today's exercise.
Thank you all, and looking forward to just continuing these virtual conversations. The conversations and this question and this slide probably looks familiar to about half of you. If you've been in a committee or on a committee over the last month, we have been really focused on that question, this question, and asking that question of the committee to go to create the list that we'll share here in a moment. But given that about half of you were not able or were not on a committee to answer the question, we wanted to first start with the opportunity to ask this question again and get any notes on this question that perhaps we didn't capture to make sure that when we do the next exercise, which will prioritize the themes, that we make sure that your voice is included in that conversation. So this question is just as stated, and particularly for those who haven't answered the question so far. As we look forward, when we think about the work this foundation has been entrusted to do and the feedback we've received thus far, what do we need to discuss? What does this board, you all as a board, to guide the staff, need to discuss or make decisions on to move this organization forward and achieve our mission and vision? We will talk through some of the themes that came out of the committee, but before we do, I wanted to offer that opportunity for you all to really have a moment of discussion and reflection here.
Mr. Chair, it's Jonathan Lee.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Please.
From my vantage point, in a short period of time on the board, as well as a little bit of committee work, it seems like the fundamental question that we have before us is the pace at which we want to make grants and the balance between long-term capital preservation or long-term approach versus shorter term or somewhere in the middle. So really understanding and being informed by, I think, the tobacco settlement dollars that came and are now totally expended. What is the ultimate long-term approach? Is this, push $50 million every year? Or is it looking at something for long-term capital preservation? Because those have very different implications.
I admire the General Assembly and the Governor's Office and the Attorney General for learning from past, I hate to use the word mistakes, but the tobacco settlement, the way the money was received and processed, as we all know, at the end of the day, it wasn't processed the way it was supposed to be. So I want to thank all those parties for really setting up the One Ohio process so that we can keep money focused exactly where it's supposed to be used. But thank you.
President.
Go ahead,
This
Tom.
is Tom Gregoire. I think what our director just shared is, I completely agree with that. And I'm hoping as we have these conversations, we can, I think there's two paths because there's immediate need out there right now that we need to respond to quickly. So I hope we allow ourselves not to be so sped up that we don't make an intelligent decision about the future, and not so bogged down that we don't continue to meet needs that need to be met right now. So my comment, I guess, is more about our process than anything else.
I'd
also like to add something too.
Go ahead, Ted.
This is Director St. John. I think with the work that we've been entrusted to do and the feedback so far, naturally, these first three items are, I think at the top of the list. There's one part too that I think should be looked at. I'm not gonna grasp at words to try to frame it, but I think, what does One Ohio want to be, and what are our opportunities? We've had some discussion also about advocacy overall from a statewide standpoint, as well as public service type discussions that have been had. And I think there's some opportunities there that we can look at that we might be able to address. We may be in a position to uniquely address some things that may or may not get addressed in a more powerful way. I think Beat the Stigma was, we've had a lot of discussion about it, and that's in a category that I'm speaking about. It's a good example of something to consider. That's all I got.
Thank you, Ted.
So Commissioner Dreehouse, sorry, I was on the phone earlier. I apologize for any weird background noises. I just wanted I'm a person that represents a district, and I want to make sure from my perspective that we are responding to the needs on the ground to the extent that we can, knowing that there is this balance between getting the money out to the districts for the use in the community, and preserving some of the money so that we can have a long-term strategy. So I recognize the tug and pull, but as a district rep, I want to emphasize that we have strategies that work. We are saving lives, and the more money we have available to us, the more we can respond to the need in our communities. And so I want to make sure that that is kept front and center as we have these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Morning, this is Director Hohottle. Just a couple thoughts. One, I think whatever lessons we may have learned from the most recent grants that we submitted, I think that should be part of our strategy consideration as we move forward. Because I'm guessing there are some folks that got funded that may or may not have been as well prepared as they stated in their document. And I think secondly, as we turn over members of our board and look for continuity at the same time, I think a strategy around why is it that we lose board members? How can we assist regions if they are in need of some assistance with finding another board member or other regional folks? I would imagine in places where there's some distance, it may be difficult for people to come together. Or I would imagine in some of the in some areas it may be challenging to divide up a pot of money amongst a number of different providers. So I think those are things as a board that we can probably look at as well.
Thank you, Keith.
This Dave Mattia. What, if any, funds should be directed towards statewide programs? And should One Ohio be more directive or aggressive in soliciting particular grants for those statewide programs? Do we want to focus on an area, or do we want grants to come to us from statewide, grantees?
Thank you, Judge. Did he say descriptive and soliciting, or did he say aggressive? I'm sorry.
I said both. I mean,
both. Okay.
You can use whatever word.
Okay.
Should One Ohio be more, I don't know, direct,
Okay.
descriptive?
Okay. Okay.
Just
Thank you. Any last, go ahead.
Sorry,
Greta.
Chairperson Mason, it's Greta Mayer. I just wanted to say something about, learning from the grants that have been funded, how important that is, and having the evaluation tailored to those applicants. What I envision as there's increasing instability, some loss of grants by local providers, just from the federal changes that are occurring and changes in response as the final state budget is being, that process is working through. I think the ability to be keeping in mind flexible, yet continuing, or adaptable maybe, And that some of the things that maybe were in the works for grants may need to change because of loss of funding in other areas. So this idea, I think it's going to be a challenge for the grants committee and the board as a whole, to maybe manage our expectations, that there may be needs to shift and change. And our evaluators can help us with that, so we don't lose the outcomes, the ability to track progress over time. So I think that's going to be beneficial, both in the short-term funding as well as the longer term, what we can do with the settlement dollars.
Hey, Greta. this
Thank
is-
you, Greta. And I
Greta.
mentioned on my last call that, again, I was always taught to do a SWOT analysis, the strength, weakness, opportunities, threat. And this threat of lost funding from the federal side of programs across Ohio was something that we didn't see coming, but we are now dealing with. So thank you. And I hope I didn't cut somebody else off. Was somebody else going to jump in on that?
Yeah, but I can't remember. Oh, I was gonna say to Greta that, I wonder if, the braiding of dollars is going to be even more essential now, because I recognize that more people are going to ask you as a board to fund things that maybe you used to fund, and they think, well, you used to fund that, so I'm sure you have the same amount of money to do that now. And how does, there was a opiate grant from the Attorney General's office for jails and prisons, and people are trying to figure out what the state budget looks like, and while we may not have a role in helping them understand that, we may end up having a role in providing some dollars to fill in some of those gaps for some programs and services that have been really, really vital. So I do think that maybe somewhere, whether it's a subcommittee or something of people that are in the kind of provider type area, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a discussion just to bring back some information to the board.
Thank you, Keith.
Yep.
And again, hearing no additional comments, we'll move on to the next item of the agenda, which is actually Alicia's Executive Director's report.
And I think just to kind of wrap, I think, Sarah, as we get into the next report or the update, so I just want to remind everybody kind of where we're headed. And we do have one activity that we'd love for the group to consider. So we heard your feedback today. We've heard it at the committee meetings. I want to talk through the themes that came back from this, and it sounds like we may have one particularly to that was brought up, one or a few that were brought up today that we need to add. But let's just go through this quickly. So when we think about prioritizing our next steps, here are the themes that we've heard from you, and I think we've heard some of those themes today. And we'll walk through each of these, and then you should have all received a link to a quick survey, a one-question survey. I think Andy's working on that right now. There might be an edit that we're making to add. He was listening this morning to add to that survey as we went along in the conversations. And we would like you to pick the top 3 discussion themes that came from this list. There's 7 or 8 total. And that's what we'll focus on at the May 14th meeting. We think we know what you want, but we want to be sure to know, right? To make sure that we're talking about the things that you all find most important right now, understanding that we'll hit every item on this list over the course of this year. And so the first discussion theme that we heard a lot from you all and in the committees about is what is the spending horizon of the opiate settlement dollars entrusted to the foundation? That came out in a number of ways. How do we respond to the needs of the day, thinking ahead to the needs of tomorrow? That came up today. How do we create stable, consistent funding levels that communities can plan for? How do we avoid creating a funding cliff as settlement dollars are finite? So that is one of the discussion items. I'm sure we could probably put more of the conversation today that happened in under this category, but that's our first category that we want you to consider as a discussion theme to select from your top 3. The second theme was what's the role of the foundation? Well, we offer technical assistance, support, act as a convener, and or more. And that came up a lot in these discussions. How do we further support the organizations in Ohio doing the direct service work every day? What's our role in that? And we could probably add more to that conversation around you know, our work in bringing groups together at the region level as well. But we'll go to the next themes.
Hey, Alicia.
So number 3. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I'm really sorry to interrupt. Could you go
Yeah.
just back one slide? You know, under 1 in the second bullet point, I think that's a great question. And I think what you should maybe add to that is, you know, creating stable, consistent funding levels. But, you know, also remember that, you know, the dollars coming in may not be consistent. And, you know, there is a risk that some of those dollars that are promised over the next 18 years don't come in, or come in at a faster pace, not as quickly, not as much, etc. So I think that is an important part of, you know, we're trying to create a consistent level of funding for communities, right? But, you know, there is a risk that some of the dollars that were promised as part of this settlement don't come in. And how do we manage that? So.
I think that's right. And we'll add that to the points, because these points, once you prioritize them, this information, along with all the notes from the committee meetings, will be shared with our facilitators. So thank you. Looking again at point number 3, what is our approach to community grant making? And this was a big one. This came up, I think, even today, Keith and Greta, as you guys were talking about braiding and collaborative work to really understand what's happening on a more holistic level, and coordinating funds with other funders. So federal, state, and perhaps philanthropy and others that are investing in this. Federal, state, and local is probably what that should say. Can we bring together community planning efforts that already exist if they're not already at the table? So our Adam H. Friends, our health departments, our drug coalitions, et cetera, was some of the feedback that was contemplated that we thought fell on this theme. How do we support innovation efforts? How else can we provide resources? Outcomes-based contracting, matching opportunities. We've seen some recent requests for matching dollars, sponsorships, others. How do we provide sustainable and helpful support that does not create a reliance on One Ohio funding was another theme that came out of these discussions. And so we really tried to, I know there's a lot here, but this theme really speaks to how do we use, or how do you all see us using the resources that you all manage in a number of ways to support the community in ways that include our grant rounds, but also other things. How do we collaborate with others? That was the theme that we felt like we heard when we were listening to you all kind of speak to this. The 4th theme, how do we improve the One Ohio infrastructure to advance our work? This really speaks to, we did this, we were intentional about the structure in Ohio, bringing that voice of the regions front and center, the community front and center. How do we do that better? How do we support the regions and provide any administrative, communication, legal, data, and other support needs? All of those things kind of came up. Can we have some sort of capacity building opportunities for the regions, particularly those who may not have, may not organize, especially those multi-county regions, any other way? And so this would be an opportunity to bring them together. How can we improve communications issues as they arrive between us as a foundation team and board and the regions and the grantees and the applicants and all the folks that are really paying attention to the work that we do? And then how do we help regions and communities learn more about the evidence-based practices, best practices, and more that exist today? And so this was a 4th theme that we pulled from the work that will be in your survey today. And then we just have a few more. Next, theme number 5 was how do we and will we respond in times of economic hardship? And I think that this gets to the point around that SWOT analysis that our chair made, and really thinking about what's happening today. And does that separate? There was some conversation about, is that separate? Is there some reactive nature to how we fund, which can speak to maybe a separate process, just as a thought that came up. Theme number 6 was how do we consider expanding our revenue sources and or leveraging settlement dollars to further advance our mission and vision? Do we look for, really put a call out for our philanthropy partners to do match partnerships? Do we look for national grants or other revenue? And then there was a mention of, and how can the board further this work? And I know that there are some of you that may have that expertise, but how do we kind of grow that expertise within our board as we think about growing a revenue source, if that's the direction that you all choose to take this? And then we had number 7, how will we know if we have achieved our mission and vision? Really that evaluation discussion that, we want to meet the needs of Ohioans. How we know we've done that, how we know we've achieved our mission and vision over time, what can we put in place to evolve with those needs, and how can we anticipate those needs through perhaps some surveillance efforts, using data, using the outcomes from our grants. I think one of you mentioned earlier, looking at that information to make decisions, to understand maybe perhaps we move away from one thing and into something else. Whether that be a grantee or an abatement strategy area, prevention, treatment, harm reduction, etc. And so those are the 7 that we have. And I believe, Andy, did we add number 8? Is that something that we added on the survey?
Yeah.
Justin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and then I think one came up today that didn't quite meet the list while we were kind of typing as you guys were talking. That didn't quite make it to the slides, but did make it into your survey. And that was really focused on, I'm going to read it here so I don't mess it up. Who can One Ohio be, and what do we want to be to the state, and what are our opportunities? I think that was one that really wasn't captured in what we had so far as the theme. So we added that to the survey right there on the spot. So thank you, Andy Jessen, for that work. So just as a reminder, you all should have a link to that survey or QR code in your email inboxes right now. We're going to do this here live. I know sometimes it is hard and technology challenges are hard. So if you have trouble, we can always connect with you after. But while we have your captive attention, we wanted to get you all to prioritize those themes so we can make sure that we build the agenda that you want to see, and there's consensus for that agenda on May 14th. What questions will we tackle first? So I'll give it a moment for everyone to take it, and then once you've taken it, Andy, tell us when we get to a good number of responses, and then we can move on. If anybody's having trouble or don't have the link, go ahead and say so here. Lori can email it right to you right now.
Maybe just now. Oh, there we go. Just now hit.
Okay, it just hit for some folks. We know you're busy folks, and we don't want to miss the opportunity to while we have your captive attention, to get this response in. See folks working.
Excuse me, dear.
Looks like Keith needs the link. If anybody else needs the link, go ahead and raise your hand on or use your functions there. We can make sure.
I had to refresh mine and it brought it back from a half hour ago at 10:31.
Okay. Thank you, Representative. We'll get that over to you. I know it's hard to, but we wanna.
It was in my One Ohio account, so if you're looking at other accounts,
Andy, Justin, give me a sign when you think we got the majority of folks that have taken the survey.
you see the election. This is candidate judgment time. He's sending it to us.
Okay. I've seen that. I'll have to huddle. Okay. Anybody else having trouble? Raise your hand. See some heads shaking. No. Okay. Oh, Keith, we're good? Oh, not seeing it yet? Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. I just wanted to, I know that a couple folks are still waiting for it to come through. We won't, I don't know if Andy, how many results do we have so far? Do we have enough that we could speak
We
to
have
some of the?
50 so far.
Oh, that's good. Let's go ahead and share your screen and show kind of what we're going to be talking about on May 14th. Andy Justin also won our bracket challenge as a staff team member. And so he is good at these kind of things. And so our first priority for our meeting is what is that spending horizon for the settlement dollars entrusted to the foundation? Our second priority, it looks like, is green and yellow. What is the role of the foundation? And then how will we consider expanding our revenue sources and or leveraging the settlement dollars further? Our top three options now. So we'll continue to monitor this, but based on the consensus of the group, once you select your three, we will start with start these conversations on May 14th. So thank you all for your participation. It really helps to kind of make sure that we're on the same page as we prioritize our work moving forward. And I think we're going to make some good progress with some planning. And then I want to talk a little bit now in my report about what we hope to do with your planning and the timeline for how we think this could all come together. So I will jump right into my executive director report, if that's okay. I think what we wanted to be sure to kind of share this morning is that we have a number of big picture priorities that we believe can happen at the same time and are operating in such a way to make those things happen at the same time. And so I'm going to walk through a number of these, not all of these today at high level, and we'll keep coming back to you with updates throughout the year as this moves forward. But first, I want to delve into our 2025-26 One Ohio Staff Action Plan to give you all some insight into the operations of the organization, what we're focused on, what our big priorities are, and who's working on what across the staff team, and where capacity further capacity will likely be needed. And so if we can go to the next slide. In your board folders, and Sarah, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, we can switch to it if you have it. We have provided all of you a copy of a One Ohio Staff Action Plan. This document really lists out the work, key tasks, and major projects that we have underway here at the foundation, who's responsible for those key tasks, what measures we're looking at when it relates to the work that we need to do, and where we are in each of those areas. And so we wanted to bring some awareness to this work because we continue to look at our staff capacity. We continue to lean on all of you for ideas on how we can do this work better. I think what we sometimes forget, because we've been talking about One Ohio for a long time, is that we are still very much a startup organization. And so a lot of the processes that we are working on are processes that we are doing for the first time. And so if you are interested, please take a look. I see Sarah sharing the plan here as well. Please take a look. And if there are areas that you have expertise in, that you have, really found efficiencies and ways to do this, better, please let us know. We're really focused on these items as we move forward, and we'll continue to report out on our progress as we think about it. And so just to point out Sarah's kind of going through our first bucket, which is our us being a trusted nonprofit. We also have plans for us in our work on collaborative funding and health promotion and our work as an advocate. And so I won't go through each of these. That information is just to provide you some insight on what we're looking at here as a staff team, a mighty team of 7, but I'll have some updates here on that as well in a moment. And so we're really trying to balance those requests that come from the board, the work that we need to do to make this organization efficient. So from this report, we have some Q1 highlights that I'd like to share. So we'll try to do this on a regular basis to kind of give you some insight as to what this is kind of adding up to. And so for us, there were a couple key Q1 by the numbers, things that we wanted to point out. So far this year, we've had 11 public meetings with all of you, 20 region meetings, 18 meetings or presentations out in the community, advocacy meetings, really important meetings with our other state counterparts. We want to make sure that we're really understanding how things are working across the country and where we can make improvements. So we're really proud of those conversations this quarter. And 93 positive media hits, which is even exceeding some of the work that we did last year already in terms of our projections. 1,900 accounting transactions, and I won't read all of these, 245 grant agreements and payment forms collected, 184 grant payments processed, one-on-one grant meetings, and really this number at the bottom, grantee events. We really expect that work to pick up as our grantees start to kick off the work that they need to do and they plan to do with the funds entrusted from us to them to their programs and services. And so we're really excited. We're going to try to keep you guys aware and informed on those numbers and other numbers throughout each quarter. Other updates, as Jim mentioned today in our audit and finance, we've established a new benefits program, new HR payroll provider. We really are pleased to move to them and really deal with some of the unique needs of having employees across the state in different localities. We really wanted to make sure that we were addressing those local payroll taxes appropriately. And so our new provider is going to help us do that. Happy to have transitioned accounting services so that those 1,900 lines of accounting that Jim was managing can be supported now by Panoramic Solutions. We were able to deliver welcome packages to the 136th General Assembly. Thanks to Andy Jessen walking over and sharing each package one by one to our members of the General Assembly to make sure they know who we are and what our mission and vision is. And then we've held over 2 Impact Academy sessions with over 800 participants so far this year. So we're really excited. So we want to make sure, you know, in the midst of all the great work that you all do as a board, I think this staff team is making some tremendous accomplishments as well. And so we're happy to share those hopefully on a quarterly basis, if not more, if you guys like any more information in any one particular area. Before I leave the staffing updates, I did want to provide that Andy Jessen, our partnership and outreach associate, has let us know that he is moving to another position outside of the foundation. And so we have been honored to have him for the last year and appreciate all of the things that he has done to contribute to our work so far in the last year. And we wish him well on his future endeavors. So with that, thanks, Andy. All right. But going back to if you remember that big picture slide, the second, and I won't spend as much time on these next few points, but you know, just to build some awareness, we still are very much gearing up the compliance machine. And so we have 245 grantees that we have close relationships with, and we're going to get even closer. All the grantees have been trained, and we'll start the reporting process. The first reports will be due in July and then again in January on the universal and activity area metrics and even some of the specific metrics that they've identified themselves. And so we look forward to partnering with those groups. We will be standing up our grant dashboards. If anyone's ever done any dashboard and technical work of that sort, that is not an easy feat, but we're really proud of the progress that we've made so far and hope to show you some previews into those dashboards as we get further into the year. The next line that we're kind of running on a parallel track here is our 2025 grant cycle. Our staff team is assuming that we will get to a point of allocation for our 2025 grant round in the coming months, which I'll speak to hopefully here in a second. And in preparation for that, we wanted to kind of talk a little bit about some of the next steps that Sarah will be taking this month and next to keep moving us forward. And so, Sarah, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Alicia. Hello, everyone. So as we learned from our region feedback survey that we did and all of the region debrief meetings, there's a lot of reorganizing that the regions wanted to undertake before they review grants in a future funding round. So all of the region reorganizing is happening now. Most of our regions have met so far this year. I'll be working with those that have not set a meeting schedule yet to begin doing so. And one of the new developments to help them with their reorganizing is a toolkit that we are getting ready to launch. Some of y'all may remember that original toolkit that was done in partnership with our local government partners to really help the work of regions getting established. So I am working in partnership with those same organizations. You can see them, their logos listed here on this updated toolkit that includes all of our lessons learned, all of the best practices, feedback from the survey, the needs that the regions have to help them guide their work going forward and any reorganizing they may be doing. So very excited. The toolkit will be launching here very soon. We'll be having region collaborative calls to highlight different sections of the toolkit and to support the regions as they get going. The other thing we're taking part in here soon is we're rebranding it. So we're going to call it the annual volunteer registration form, their commitment form to take part in the next grant review process. But that will include their related party questionnaire, conflicts of interest information. So we'll be able to start that process very soon here as well. Another thing we're doing simultaneously is using data and information to support funding priorities. That was the #1 thing they said they wanted from the foundation to support them. So we have provided a number of things in the toolkit to help them with that. So excited for this work to be underway and dive into this with all 19 of our regions.
Thank you, Sarah. And so for us, I think what we are kind of marching towards, at least as a draft of this, and we will continue to look for and seek guidance from you all, is we are assuming the successful conversations will happen in May. And then more conversations would happen in June, but that in June, perhaps there would be an allocation discussion and perhaps a vote on an allocation. Should that all occur, we would then be ready to announce this year's timeline in partnership with our grants committee. And I've had a good conversation with Tom over the last couple of days. We may need to ramp up some of our grants committee meetings to kind of meet that. But it's about that time for us to kind of get to setting those dates so that the communities and the regions can really start to focus themselves around, when they should be expecting what. And so we're really thankful that the committee is going to be working with us to kind of clear that up and get that going.
Ask one question.
Yeah.
So I just got off, before I joined this call, I was meeting with our regional group, and they had additional questions about the sort of cumbersome nature of the grant scoring process. And I know that we had at least one member sat through the most recent training that Sarah did. Has there been discussion within the grant committee about looking at the process by which members were required to score those grants? I know that we had 65, and that certainly wasn't the most received by a region, but the lift that was required, I think I've got a couple of scoring members who are going to be at best reluctant to sign on again. So I just wondered if there was discussion within the grants committee about looking at that process, because I don't suspect that we're going to have less applications, what with the state of federal and perhaps even state funding for some of these organizations.
That is a great point. And yes, we are having those conversations. I don't want to steal Tom's committee update thunder here, but Tom, did you want to weigh in on that and what your group's working on?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'll do it generally. Yeah, Greta, we totally get that. At the region level, at the expert panel level, at the grant panel, we all barely survived. It's a cumbersome process, and we took a lot of lessons away from that. I don't think we finalized our approach, but we're going to come up with an approach that's much less demanding. One of the things we're talking about at length is perhaps a step that is a letter of help me with my words, someone. There's a brief letter of intent. Yeah, is that Laura? What did I say?
Yes, a letter.
I did it right.
Yes.
So that people could speak to the region briefly about what their intents are, and the region can decide right then whether someone's in the ballpark or not. But we are working hard at, we means all the staff, and working hard at coming up with a much more efficient process that still fulfills our obligation to evidence-based and the standards that are articulated in the MOU.
Thanks very much.
I could just add to that, we had a similar problem in Region 3, which is Cuyahoga County, a large number of grants. And what our region board learned is we're going to have to be much more, director specific in what we want to solicit from grantees, to cut down the broad number of grantee applications that we received. Because none of us want to go through that again. I'm with you on that.
Thank you.
Okay. Up next.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for weighing in on Alicia's Executive Director's report. We'll now move to our committee reports. And at the top of the order, using baseball slang, I guess, we have Julie Amen to talk about the Personnel Committee.
Well, good morning, everyone. The Personnel Committee met on March 27th. We again have few numbers on our committee, so if you're interested in joining us on the Personnel Committee, I am inviting you, strongly encouraging you. Please join us. Anyway, so we talked about the handbook and potential updates that might need to occur, and that will be a focus of our June meeting that we're going to have on June 3rd. Alicia detailed numerous items that are going on within the staff. They held a retreat and all the staff signed their acknowledgements. They put together the action plan, which she briefly showed you in her report, and that individual goals are due at the end of April for them. She mentioned the new payroll vendor and that the benefits are up and running. And she also talked about personnel changes with Andy Jessen leaving and other individuals to start. But one of the best things we got to talk about is having One Ohio become a recovery-friendly workplace. And everyone's very supportive of this decision to apply for this status. And by doing so, we can take concrete steps to ensure our organization not only acknowledges the challenges of recovery, but actively supports our employees on their journey. And we feel like it only makes sense for One Ohio to get this designation and to work with others to get this designation and really make it something throughout Ohio that it's very normal place and that we're all supportive in this way. So that I'm really excited about that. And that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julie. And any questions quickly for her before we move on? We need a motion then to apply for the recovery-friendly workforce designation. I need a motion, a second.
Moved. Greta Mayer.
Greta makes the motion.
I'll second.
Vicky, second.
And Jeanette Wisbicki seconds the motion. And we can do this by voice vote. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion carries. So thank you again so much, Julie. We appreciate all your efforts. I'd like to hear now, batting second is Chair of the Audit and Finance Committee, Evan Klagmeyer, and the Foundation's Finance Director, Jim Quinn. Well, Jim, we'll start with you. I don't see Evan on.
Okay. This month we will walk through the budget, the grant spending, and the cash balance report. These are a set of reports that we have done for at least a year and a half to two years. We are working with the Audit and Finance Committee and our new partners at Panoramic to think through and create maybe some new set of reports. So if you have some suggestions or things that you would like to see or some information that you think it would be helpful, please pass that along or join us at an Audit and Finance Committee meeting. In March, we spent $119,000 in the operations budget. which is about what we have spent for the first 2 months of January and February of this fiscal year. For a total of $344,000 to date. We have experienced some savings from our original budget, and I think it's been mentioned a couple times here that we have changed benefits providers, which we saved some money there, and our HR provider also we have some savings for better service and savings from that provider. We also saved $5,000 by not going to the onboard system for board management and converting it to our Microsoft 365. So there was a savings there in the computer and software area. Both our insurance isn't due till September, so we have some expenses that are coming up that we expect to increase spending as some of our contractors bill us quarterly, so we haven't received those invoices yet, and so we're looking at some increased spending in the future. You can move on to the next report. This is the 24 grant cycle report. This report will live on or in some form through the life cycle of the 2024 grants. To date, we've spent 12.9, or we dispersed 12.9 to grantees. Just around $2 million in payments in March. And to put this in perspective, let's jump to the next chart, because we've had some questions about this, and hopefully this will help people understand the 2024 grant award. So 45 million was awarded from the 51 million allocated, and this is the schedule as we expect payments to flow through the life of these grants. So our initial payments are kind of being spread over multiple months as grantees submit their ACH forms, their bank information is verified, and payments are made. We have dispersed another 600,000 this month already, and we have a couple grants that don't start until later this summer. So we do not pay grantees until the start date, right? So they need to be confirmed from the bank and then a start date. Our next payments will be in August, right? Reporting is in July, payments are in August. The next reporting is due in January. The next payments will be in February 26th, and so on through the life of these grants. In February 28, we expect that those will be the last payments. Those will be the balance of the 5% reserve for the 3-year grants that have been awarded. The other table shows the breakdown of award dollars by type of grant. So while in the 12-month period we have more grantees, the dollar amount is not as high, right? And so 28% of the money awarded was for 12-month grants. 37% was for 24-month grants, and then 35% was for 36-month grants. So hopefully this, I've had some questions about, we've only dispersed 12.9. Well, yes, we're on schedule to disperse the amount that was awarded. One thing of note here is that these first payments are primarily been a manual process where they send us forms, grantees send us forms. Sometimes they're slow in sending us forms. Then we get the forms, we review them. Sometimes we have to ask for updates. Then some of them send us bank information. Then we call the banks to make sure that they are verified and these are accurate. We have had some attempted fraud that we have caught in the process. Moving forward, we are just about ready to implement a process with Key Bank that will automate this whole process. So when we get to August, we expect the payments to be fully automated by that time. And that automation will confirm the bank information as well as issue the ACH payments. That will certainly streamline future grants as grantees can then go through that process. Any questions here? All right, let's move on to the last.
Jim, I will note one thing that I noted earlier that I think it's important to note everywhere is that we have had direct conversations with our grantees as a part of this payment schedule and understand that the environment may change. And so those who are interested will reach out to us and ask for adjustments in the payment schedule, and that is an option of our grantees. And so if any of those happen, depending on the circumstances, we will bring those discussions to the grants committee. And that's where we'll have the discussions with the grants committee and then as well as the regions to kind of talk through any changes to the schedule with any individual grantees. So we're excited to be those flexible partners with our grantees as we continue to develop our relationships.
All right, Andy, we can move to the next. The last report is our cash balance report. It shows the disbursements and the money coming into the foundation. And in March, the net difference was 2.4 million. That includes 3 million in disbursements to grantees, and 770,000 in interest, and 113,000 in operating payments. One of the difference that should be noted between this report and the previous report, this is actually cash out the door, right? This is actually, so sometimes we'll post a payment to the March budget, but it won't be paid, right? It actually won't be dispersed until the first few days in April. And so that is that's one of the differences between these two reports. Are there any questions? So if there are additional things you would like to see, please reach out to us, and so we can put together some reports that would be helpful moving forward. Thank you.
Is there one more slide, Sarah?
No.
There's not.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Then I need a motion. Are we ready for a motion to approve the March unaudited financial report, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion and a second to approve the unaudited financial report for March.
So moved. Jim White.
By Jim White,
Second by Lee.
second by Jonathan Lee. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries. I assume that last aye was a trailing aye for the approved. All right, well, thank you very much, Jim, appreciate it. I'll now give a real quick update from the executive committee. First, we want to thank one of our members, Senator Terry Johnson. Our committee recognized that much conversation is happening in the state Senate right now to highlight the importance of drug prevention education in schools. Because of this work, the executive committee motioned that the foundation provide interested party testimony on Senate Bill 7, which is focused on evidence-based prevention education in schools. Again, thank you, Senator Johnson, for your commitment and leadership on this important issue. Additionally, our group has organized a subcommittee to review the code of regulations and provide areas that may need improvement or further discussion. And at the conclusion of this, we'll review the executive committee excuse me, at the conclusion of this review, the executive committee will come up to the board with a list of future changes. By the way, as I talk about this, I really want to again encourage people to participate in the committee calls. We are having problems getting quorums, and that's pretty critical. So now I'll batting fourth. Is that cleanup, Jim White from the investment committee?
Absolutely, Don. I'll try to hit it out of the park for you. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Really the big news here from the investment committee standpoint, twofold. One is we added a new committee member, Jonathan Lee. I think that takes us up to 4 or 5 committee members. So Jonathan, thank you for your willingness to serve on the investment committee. At our last investment committee meeting, which was maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, we talked about sending out an RFP, a request for proposal, to help the organization manage some of our short-term fixed income investments. And so over the last 3 to 4 weeks, the committee has worked very hard at putting together an RFP, putting together a list of potential candidates to accept those RFPs. And I'm happy to say that we've done that. And our RFP went out last week. Those RFPs and responses we have asked to come back to us, I think May 14th, which happens to also coincide with, I think, our strategic planning meeting. And then decisions on that RFP are going to be due hopefully around January 9th. So, ultimately we have, as Jim Quinn went through in the Finance and Audit Committee report, we have a lot of money, $220 some dollars, that is sitting at kind of Key Bank right now. It has been invested in a insured deposit program for a number of years. We do have an investment policy that allows us to, expand upon kind of what we're doing with Key and potentially another provider. And so the mandate of this RFP is to help us improve upon potentially the RFP that we have in place, and then also more professionally manage and customize a kind of short duration cash treasury management portfolio for the organization. That's kind of phase one. Phase two, depending upon how we go through the strategic planning process, would be to potentially go through another RFP process where we would hire an actual investment consultant to then help us with an investment policy for our other dollars, not just kind of the short-term fixed income dollars, but these dollars would have more of a longer-term horizon potentially. And that would kind of be phase two, would be putting in place an RFP for an investment advisors that would help us with asset allocation decisions, manager selection, performance reporting, etc. So, but thank you very much, and that concludes my report.
Well, again, thank you very much, Jim. Thank you very much for your time on this. I'd like to turn over to Tom Gregoire now to talk about the Grant Oversight Committee. We had a brief discussion earlier, but now, Tom, you can round out the discussion.
Yeah, what's my baseball metaphor, Don? Am I the relief
Here's what I was
pitcher?
going to say. When the bases are loaded, a hit by pitch or a walk is good to score a run.
All right. Well, I will do the best I can. I'm not going to repeat myself, so I don't have a whole lot to say. We have a hardworking committee. Alicia just threw down the gauntlet. We're going to pick up the pace a little bit. We are absolutely learning the lessons of what was a good first-time grant process, but needs to be more efficient and more consistent. So we're looking forward to the conversations in the next meeting that are going to set the longer-term agenda, but at the same time working to get a next round started soon. That folks are frightened appropriately, and we know how tight money is for folks. So the extent that we can be helpful, we need to be part of that. And Alicia, I think you maybe you've covered what you want to cover, but if you have some other things, then let me know.
No, I think we hit it. We're excited to partner with you all to really work out those details. And we will have our next grant committee meeting at the end of April. I think it's April 23rd. So, thank you for the partnership there.
So thank you, Tom, and this does conclude the committee reports, and I want to take a moment to thank again all of you who've answered the call to join committees and to chair committees. So much of what we do happens between our board meetings. That's very, very critical. We then move on to new business. I don't have any new business. Do you, Alicia? Oh, that's always good. Hearing none, then let me move on to some announcements. New this year, starting with this board meeting, we will be providing talking points to our regional appointees to support the updates you are getting as you attend your regional meetings. We want to make sure that the regions are hearing from us on key decisions, key points, and the updates that are happening in our meetings. It is our hope that these talking points will assist you in the future in that process. We hope that this is helpful to you, and we welcome any feedback on this as we roll it out, and any ideas you have that will help us support you in your work. Again, I want to thank everybody for attending. Please contact Alicia or me if you want to serve on a committee or have had any other suggestions. And that rounds out our board. So the entire agenda has been covered. Is there a motion to adjourn? I saw Tom Gregoire nod. Is there a second to the motion to adjourn?
Second.
I don't know who the second was.
Mattia.
David, thank you. Hearing no discussion on motion to adjourn, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The meeting is adjourned, and thank you, everybody, for all your time, your efforts at this meeting, before and after. Thank you so much.